Hey, what is up, dudes and dudettes? This is Diligence here, and today we're going to discuss ticker symbol MMAT. And we haven't talked about this for a long time, but I think we do have some good news from George in terms of today's investor conference. Doesn't seem like a lot of people actually pay attention to this, and not a lot of people are doing a summary for that. So I'm just going to do a quick summary for you guys and some sort of a quick what are some things to expect on the stock price in terms of the information that he just gave us. I mean, it's a 27-minute presentation, but what is really important is about like 2 or 3 minutes of that, which I caught up on that, and hopefully you guys love me sharing with you guys. So first of all, he talks about like all of the verticals or business potentials of metamaterial. For example, Nanoweb, he talks about like the transparent sensors and 5G antenna. Well, really what he's pitching for is basically the basically like thin layers of connectivity and receiver and adapter. So this thing is really useful for Samsung or smartphones or whatever, but in reality, the actual implication of this have some limitations because due to like the entire manufacturing process of a lot of hardwares, because people are really already used to using the old materials. So one of the problems for metamaterials to solve is actually conversion cost. The conversion from old materials to new materials. And if you guys think that, George is actually going to produce semiconductors, that's actually not true. He's just trying to replace a raw material of producing semiconductors. That's what he's been doing. That's what metamaterials is all about. And second vertical he talks about is, I've talked about connectivity sensors. LiDAR implication. For those of you who are on Patreon, you guys know that we're long LiDAR, right? We're long LiDAR not because we have certain information that's very interesting about LiDAR and LiDAR technology, not because, we study LiDAR and technology, not because, one of my, close friend actually, study physics of photonics and LiDAR stuff, but because we do believe that LiDAR technology has to be adapted, especially when prices are getting lower and lower. And if you're on our Patreon, you know that one of the companies in our portfolio actually is doing that, and we do think there's a huge potential on that company later on. In about 1.5 years, its stock price probably will double when the entire market realizes what they're doing. But most of the people are not digging that deep yet. But so what Meta would offer is, so about 2 or 3 years ago, they already developed this like defrosting or de-ice, defog, basically decontamination film, where they put it on a layer, and when you heat stuff up around it and everything, the entire layer is not going to get foggy, it's not going to get ice and all those kind of stuff. I do really like this material, but one of the problems with this is even though it's very customizable to your hardware, but it's still fairly expensive in terms of all the pricing they provide online. And in order for this to be useful, we really need to go into later stage of LiDAR development, which we're probably going to talk about it later on if we decided to post a LiDAR related video. This technology is not needed yet because the core IP of LiDAR, they still have to solve a lot of the core LiDAR problems, and then this is just an add-on. So then it can actually not, capture the entire LiDAR market per se, because there are other ways to solve this problem. Medical devices. Finally, he admit that the medical device, the Meta Motion Y, Meta Glucose Wise or whatever Wise, basically it's using Nanoweb basically to form a better sensor, so then it's non-invasive. I don't really want to get into how it works really in detail because it's basically a licensing opportunity, and I don't see it being profitable they're saying in about like 2 to 7 years, but I think they underestimated how the FDA approval process works, and the fact that most of these material or equipment manufacturers don't really go for startups to get those materials, especially it's actually one of those bigger components of the entire machine, like the core IP of it. So you're probably not gonna see any positive balance sheet reaction in about like 3 to 5 years at least. Okay, and for those of you who know me in real life, you know that in the VC world we always talk about like biotech or biomaterials or machines. We have a strict time frame for calculate the discounted cash flow and calculate the profitability of that. And if you work in private equity, you will know that 3 to 5 years. Pretty fair, I think. So if you really want to make money off of Meta stock, this is not the implication that you're looking for. Next one, he talked about roadmaps, which I think are really interesting. In here, I don't know if a lot of people catch on upon this or not. He talked about the $10 million capital expenditure, And if you work in finance, you know that if we want to do a $10 million capital expenditure, then I think the production contract, what they're trying to expand it to is about 2 years, right? A 2-year or 12-month horizon. We're going to talk about that later. The 12-month horizon, actually, they've already secured some orders, which I think is one of the most pertinent and important information that George gave you. And I do think that's a very vital piece of PR. And I do think the stock will react when more and more people realize that he talked about this. So $10 million capital expenditure, we're going to come back to that. And that number is very important. We can actually calculate their net profit. Anyways, so this is it. And the next one. Talk about the smart prescription lenses. This is like George's, bread and butter, because, his first startup is all about putting metamaterials into prescription lenses. And he's talking about the $1.5 billion augmented reality eyewear market, which in reality is not going to be realized until about 2024. Because think about it, if you're in a recession, are you going to really change your gadgets from your iPhone to your eyeglasses or Google glasses or anything? And also, I think I slipped a little bit. I do believe that Apple is going to develop something similar to a Google Glass, but in a more it's more interesting way, because they're going to do Apple cars and they're definitely going to do Apple glasses. So then this is going to be a very competitive market. I think they're just going to be like a supplier for, certain components of these glasses, but the real money is made in software. So I don't think they're going to get cut of that revenue. So if you're really thinking about like how are they going to, eat in terms of like a proportion of the pie of the 1.5 billion, not that much, a couple million here and there. Depending on what the gross profit is by producing and how much margin they can make. Okay, let's go into what is really important of that investor call. It's this. So what happens is Nanotech Security, which I do like this company, Nanotech Security that they just acquired, secured a $552.7 million Beaver dollar contract. For those of you who are not on our channel, very long, you don't know what Beaver dollar is. Beaver dollar is essentially Canadian dollars. So we translate that into US dollars. They just secured a $42 million contract in US dollars. I don't know the time frame, but I can guess development of a banknote, security measures, 1 + 2 years, probably around like 4 years. So this is a 4-year contract. So if we amortize that, then we're probably going to get, $10.5 million per year. This is a development contract, pretty good. But what's the cost of that? We're probably going to go into that in a more detailed video, because I'm doing a discounted cash flow for Nanotech Technology, because I do think this acquisition actually is pretty worth it. I do think Nanotech Technology will probably be worth more than 1.25 Canadian dollars, which translates to about $1 American dollar, if they can scale it correctly, and if the cost of this contract is their cost of goods sold of this contract, including their labor costs, including all of their IP costs, it's going to be less than the previous 4 years. And another one is very important. They just secured $8.9 million US dollar purchasing orders. Remember that 2022 $10 million capital expenditure? That means this purchase order can probably cover, 89% of the capital expenditure. I mean, just in revenue wise, okay? But in terms of like gross, net income, probably not that much. Probably cover like half of that. So basically, they've already made about 25% of their capital expenditure. They're going to make 25% of their capital expenditure money back by the end of 2022. So this is actually pretty good news here. If those of you who are really into finance and everything. So if we translate that into a revenue per share price situation, that we're probably going to see a $6 metamaterial by the end of January 2022. If the market is performing well, we're assuming that the interest hike is not going to be that great. So it's very consistent with my yearly projection. We posted the yearly projection video like a month ago, talking about like $6 is one of those interesting yearly projections we have, and which is consistent with Goldman Sachs yearly prediction, even though their prediction is a little bit lower than this. Most of the institutional investors think, the stock will probably going to be around $6.5. We do think it's about 6.25-ish, somewhere around there. And you can see a proof of that from Option Chain and everywhere. And we do stand by our 6-year projection. We do think in 6 years, this stock's going to be at least $30. So yeah, A lot of you are saying that we're salty about our cutting loss or whatever on metamaterial, but in reality, guys, 1/3 of the holdings. Choose has 2/3 of the holding. You can sell CC. You can literally sell CC at 2/3 of the holding. You can also buy lead call options. Like, I don't get it. Just because you guys lose money, so you want everybody else to lose money and be salty about it. But anyways, this is the good news here. And hopefully other channel will cover this. This is literally like 2 minutes out of the 27 minute. I mean, I just wasted 27 minutes to obtain the 2-minute information. But yeah, those two are the most important information that you get from the investor conference. All right, see you guys on the upside. Hopefully this information is useful. Again, we're not financial advisors, therefore we do not give financial advices. Everything we say on this channel is for shits and giggles, but they're factual too. All right, see you guys on the upside. Keep in tune on the part 2 of MMTLP video. This video is going to be a little bit intermediate. We're going to talk about the capital structure of a preferred share and then why is it important to figure out what their intention is to making that preferred share, and leaning into the part 3 video. Part 3 video, we're going to talk about 4 different scenarios why they decided to do this deal on the OTC MMTLP deal with the market maker. Their intentions, their possible motive, and who are buying those, and why the price went down today, and why the price might went down again tomorrow. Because it all follows a pattern that we see all the way. We can gather data all the way back to 1972, actually. For any of you who are curious, go search up this company called Cooper Industries, which is actually a hardware manufacturer. They issued something. They were planning to merge with a company that will issue preferred stocks options that pays a dividend. Similar situation with metamaterial or Torchlight in here, and then you will see there are a lot of interesting projections and data, and there are a lot of already matured preferred share sort of trading data that you can obtain from like the old books. For those of you guys who are curious, you can go see that, and it follows almost the same pattern. All right, see you guys on the upside.